All right, everybody, let's kick it off. It is round number 4, tournament number 5. And as for what it all means, let's take a look at the bracket. From this point on, we will be eliminating a single person per round, and we've got 4 people left. Golpeuit is going to be waiting the winner of the lower bracket. The lower bracket finalists, one of which is going to be Agent Cypher 19. Today we're going to figure out who the other lower bracket finalist is, and it's going to be between Colexiel, the 2-deck, 1-deck wonder, versus Indubitablement, with some cool Arcanist and some nasty Apex. And it is just a best of 3, so it is going to be a short cast. Buckle in for game number 1. It's going to be fun. Okay, so first game of the night, it is Colexiel versus the Face. Had a ton of Aegis Golems in his hand, but immediately replaces them away. Didn't want to see them first. Was really fishing for a Metallurgist, but has a pretty weak starting play. It's just going to be a raw Dream Shaper, which I guess is better than the Shroud, because it ups the Sirocco count. But it's kind of a toss-up. There's this incredible hand here. These cryptos can do a lot of work. Especially with these Bloodbound Mentors. So we know Colexiel's got the Terror of the Pig and of the 10-3. That could be granted flying, or perhaps a ton of health. Whereas this Kara deck over here is a lot stronger in the late game. Absolutely pumps out units and tons of spells. An opportunity to get the Mentor off the table has appeared. It may have been better to put this behind the General. Greedily going for the Mana Spring means Colexiel's got the opening to trade for it and immediately does it. So that was an excellent response, saying the Mentor there. There is another Mentor here still. So with the Prismatic Illusionist, a ton of units can be made if this BBS can be cast a couple times, and they're pretty decent stat-wise. And has up Hydrogarm as an answer to the Wild Tar. Colexiel moving to the same row as the Illusionist, just to be closer to it. Giving up the option of the top mana tile. And hasn't done a replace yet. Would ideally get some card draw off the Dream Shaper. But is going for the long range kill with a quality constraint plus -2 from Dissension. Wait. You're not doing that? Oh, there it is. So with a Frenzy unit, it gets counterattacked by what you targeted, so there was a misplay there. This Tar could have hit the 0 attack unit and been at full health still, and still got the hit. So if the Pig loses by 2 health, and that causes the game to fall apart, we know where the loose thread was. Huge problem, though. This Wild Tar can't even be locked down turn over turn, because its Hydrogarm is not going to work next turn. Best options are to build up a board, spread out, and don't attack. So Indubitablement knows how to play around this Pig. Shroud on the Mentor to turn off these excellent spells. And a nice minion wall in to secure the top tile for himself. Absolutely full grip in hand. I believe Lesser Water Ball is a 5 damage spell, so Cloud Caller could come down and that could answer this pig. Wild Tard. Pretty nasty. Since it's getting pumped up, I'm assuming that's a play. Oh, never mind. We're going to stun it for a turn. And can even stun it next turn too, because Kinetic Surge will be cooling down. So that takes care of the board. Colexiel's got finally a way to draw some cards off the Stream Shaper. So even though Celebrant's not that great at this point of the game, it's necessary to get this bond to trigger. Draws more of the same. Replaces and at least finds a Blood of Air, which could take out something particularly nasty, but a lot of the spells and the power of this deck are really spread out on a ton of tokens or immediate use, so it's kind of hard to deal with it with Blood of Air. So Indubitable's kind of on the hook here to stun this Wild Tar again. Which is going to just be a Kinetic Surge. Other options are to snowball it, or to make some haste units at it, or even to try and provoke it. This Arcanist deck is kind of picking up in power at this point in the game with this many plays that could be done. So it is time for some rush minions. And gets a good spawn on this one, so it can hit the Wild Tar. But was guaranteed the spot anyway with 2 hits. So 2 Kinetic Surges after a Fire Starter, and you get a 5/7 and 2 3/3s, and the 3/3s act immediately. Pretty incredible 7-mana play. Excellent board. Colexiel's going to be happy to have this Blood of Air now, because this Fire Starter needs to go. The Celebrant can go though, find some more Metallurgists, which aren't that great at this point in the game. I think Colexiel needs to fade away to the corner and hope that a win condition shows up. Either the Razorcrag Golem or another Wild Tar. This Hydro Garm becomes really hard to deal with though once it gets distance. Yeah, then the Dervish can clear the flame. Or just gonna hit the Mentor. It doesn't have any text because it's been silenced, so it's not that high value a target to kill. Gets it anyway. The Celebrant just gonna wall. Okay, chipping in for the 1 point of damage. It is now time for the Face's response. The Spellspark is still alive. So Circulus for the card drawing, so you don't run out of cards in hand. Well, it generates units in your action bar that you can replace. And a Lesser Water Ball to ping that. And maybe the Cloud Callers can just push the lethal damage. Colexiel has these tiny cards. Dream Shaper's pretty nice. Using a quality constraint to get a kill. Oh, so Roko's here for an endgame. So next turn, 8 golems are coming out. So Hydrogarm can do 1 damage to this Metallurgist, and then General Slash will finish it off. Okay, time to start another fire. Gravity Well's pretty decent too once he pumped it up. And here's the lockdown to sort of skip a turn. This could do a little bit of work protecting Colexiel though, because if you don't attack something that's an opponent unit that's just stuck there, it works as a really good defender. Suddenly there's all this attack angle just doesn't work. Could buy a critical turn for Siroko's mass to get there. Speaking of which, here it is. This needs to be cleaned up by the spell sparks that have been buffed by the kinetic surge, but there are just so many of them. I don't know if this gravity well spell can buy enough time. Pretty nasty hand texture from Indudelman, just having 2 Lightbenders. The play is probably 2 of those and a kinetic surge. But there's nothing to dispel, so it's only going to take out these walls. Which is probably better than nothing. You can attack this left wall maybe and get a Lightbender out. I know, that's, yeah, of course. Lightbender is really good against the Tsar. And carving out a pretty good space for Firestarter to keep generating tokens. Colexiel's down to last card in hand. Just this tiny golem. It might actually be better to not play it, so it gives you another card in hand to replace later. It's a real consideration for not just playing out your hand. Golem Storm has been almost completely neutralized. Going to be dropping the Aegis Golem anyway. Gets a very strong top deck. Colexiel could just drop an EMP to stop all the walls and nonsense if anything else shows up. And a Cryptographer is just so great. Especially with this Illusionist out. Because both it and the Firestarter are pumping out units that can get buffed twice. All while this Hydrogarm is going nuts. And with the multiple kinetic surges, this deck really takes advantage of this more than anything. Suddenly, these few units have just made an army. Colexiel's in a pickle. Fortunately, the CMP is pretty nice. It's going to turn off all the buffs. And turns off the provoke. That doesn't solve the board, though, because there's just so much stats to deal with. Where do you even move to not get lethaled? Gotta, like, chop up this illusionist and then move up. Dissension really nice, keeping things alive. And a Trinity Wing. So here's a ton of juice. Replaces one of them and ends up drawing an illusion. This is one of the downsides to shuffling too many illusions in your deck, is sometimes you get dead draws. Doodle feeling really good about this position. It seems pretty dominating. Fortunately for Colexiel, this nasty flyer can be dealt with just the one spell. So there it goes. And even has a good way to full clear. I would have dissensioned the Hydrogarm and then slashed it with the Sirocco. It's just gonna trade with it now. But this gives you 2 extra health. But I think having the 4/1 minion would have been better there. Oh wow. Nice draw. Sirocco the second. And fortunately for Colexiel, these tokens that are getting spat out aren't the rush variety. Boom. My ultimate technique again. Pretty scrappy game. But at this point, there is just not enough to deal with all these golems, and there's some really sick spawns. 2 of them literally flanking Kara. And Sirocco can come in for a ton of damage too. Chromatic Cold only pinging for 1 isn't going to cut it. Going to need to generate tokens to make some kind of wall. Getting value out of the spell. Just to get some more stuff out. Pretty unlucky with the back spawn on the illusionist. Boy, look at this. Making a lot with a little. Golems can do a lot of work chipping away, but this illusionist is just going to be an infinite tide of value. Both players just with the last card in hand. No Spelljammers here. Razorcrag shows up. One part of the kill combo. Replacing a Wisp and finding a Chromatic Cold is none too great. Okay, we found a different sort of combo. So instead of being able to grant the Razorcrag flying, it could just be a 10-10, which could allow this board to just push forward and doesn't give this illusionist much of a clock to just build units. Got more of that dissension value. So there's some consideration to not drop the Razor Crag, but you generally want to drop it just in case you top deck or replace into the flying spell next turn. And then there's some consideration for not casting a quality constraint for kind of the same logic. It gives you another card to replace. But giving it 7 health for 1 mana is kind of an unreal deal. So could not fault you for jamming it and then immediately buffing it. As for where to put it, if it gets put in range of all 3 of these units, it just immediately gets taken down. So it is way back here. Okay, not casting the first buff on it, knowing that there isn't a lot of damage coming out of this Vanar deck. Of course, the 3 damage hit everything spell would be incredible, but not having that. Two BBS per turn plus token generation is a way to come back, though. And there's a Coroner exposed here. Kind of an unlucky spawn, but fortunately for Indubitablement, Colexiel does not draw the flying astral phasing spell. This Blood of Air, gonna have to go immediately onto this token generator. And probably crashing into one of these 3/2s. Yeah, and the Shroud to take care of the Mentor. So much for the value engine. Although one thing that Indubitament's got going for him over Colexiel is this hand size difference, just having the extra card. So Cloud Caller means this Razor Crag is actually just dead. So it turns out it needed to be buffed. Whoops, because, yeah, nasty Water Ball hits for 5. But we found a cooler out. Sirocco the Third has appeared, and that's a dozen golems. And you'll face, too. Ooh. And then Hydrogarm is a pretty good way to deal with AoE. But draws a token spell that was replaced earlier. Looks like the face is finally croaked. Seemed to be in a dominant position for most of the game, and dealt with the first 2 Siroccos pretty well. But the value trades from all the dissension hits, and the really sick top decks, really helps Colexiel get ahead here. And drawing multiple dead cards this turn kind of kept the face back. Seeing him do what he can though, really good to buy himself an extra turn just by stunning everything. Has an aspect of the mountains for a little bit of AoE. So 2 options that Colexiel's got here are take Kara down to 1. Or attack this Cloud Caller instead. Yeah, that thing hitting for 5, a little scary, so it just goes. And Vanquisher is pretty impressive once you've got a ton of golems out. Really shuts down the options. No more movement. Because one thing you can do with Hydrogarm, if you can refresh your BBS, is hit 2 rows. At the very least, wanted this Hydrogarm out somewhere where it could be hit by this aspect of mountains to clear a whole bunch of these golems. But Golem Swarm got there, it looks like vanquished. The Siroko's showed up in the action bar exactly when they needed to. And the Dream Shapers, well, the first one was dead, but the other ones found some cards. Quite nice. Okay, so Circulus is one way to take care of 2 minions. And actually makes a pretty good blocker. Spelljammer. The theme of this game has been no action bar size, and this kind of breaks that. Although, when you're way ahead, there's actually some consideration to not play a Spelljammer, because it could let your opponent draw a way out. But that also assumes they're not dead in 1 more turn, so it's probably fine to just drop. Probably not coming in for a slash, right? 9 health is a little too low. Maybe a Dissension on the Hydrogarm and slash that. Doesn't do a lot. Might be better to just stay at 9 health. And a Spelljammer placed a little higher than this Hydrogarm can hit. Yeah. Pushing lethal in 2 hits. Gravity Well showing up at a pretty nice time though. Unfortunately, can't double BBS the Gravity Wall, so it could actually trade with each of these golems. Needs a way to produce a ton of blockers, but the problem is no matter where these Gravity Wells are placed, they can just be cleared by a golem. And 1 General Slash will do it. Okay, so here's the lethal puzzle. Colexiel seen through the chaos. And with 1 more slash, the first game goes to Colexiel. Congrats. Which means no more Dissension, because Sif is done. But it's actually just the same deck, so we're going to be seeing the exact same lineup. Maybe we see some Sirocos. The quality constraints are not going to be as strong with the Xerix compared to Sif. And then let's also have a look at what the Face will be bringing. Because this Apex deck's really funny. It gets to 7 and then just maybe it wins, who knows. Let's jump into game number 2. See who makes it to the lower bracket finals. And both players opted to switch their general. So we got the name of the deck in the opening hand. So Colexiel's just gonna dirtle around for 4 turns and hope to not get smoked by a Razor Crag that's been hit by an equality constraint in the meanwhile. Because there's not a lot of hard removal in here other than the Apex, or the Rebukes. And instead of opting to use equality constraints to buff up the Golem, uses it to kill the build minion. And buildings are actually just weak enough to get one shot by the Razor Crag. But doesn't even get the option for that. 10 to the face and another 10 to finish it off? That's just it. Look at that. Wow, fast second game. Holy shards. Draws and finds nothing. Alright, so much for Magmar. Congratulations, Colexiel, for making it to the lower bracket finals. You'll be facing Agent Cypher. Blood Tora could actually finally be played, but then there was a dispel for it, so it didn't do anything. Okay, those are all the games then, because with a 2-0 win, Colexiel advances to face Agent Cypher 19. And then winner of that is going to be doing the best of 3 with Copiate. And if they win that, they actually have to do a second best of 3 against to really clutch it out. But yeah, fun games, good stuff. See you all next week. Adios, y'all. Wait. We in fact will not be right back. See you in about a week or so.